All right, at this time, we'll call to order the City of Kenai Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for July 26, 2023. Will you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item A2, roll call, please.
Chair Tway,
Here.
Commissioner Woodard.
Here.
Commissioner Greenberg,
Here.
Commissioner Costin,
Here.
Commissioner Fikes,
Here.
Vice Chair Halsted,
Ready to rock and roll.
Commissioner Glendetting.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda as presented? Vice Chair Halsted.
I move we approve the agenda and consent agenda as presented.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, would the clerk please read the consent agenda items into the record?
You have approval of minutes, regular meeting of July 12th, 2023, and new business action approval requesting an excused absence for the July 12th, 2023 regular meeting from Commissioner Glendetting, and action approval, transfer of conditional use permit, PZ 2021-15 for cabin rentals on a property described as Lot 3, James H. Cohen Estates, located at 1050 Angler Drive within the rural residential RR zoning district, and that is your consent agenda.
All right. There was a little bit of discussion about maybe possibly pulling one of those items off the consent agenda. Are we good? Good? All right, so with that being said, is there any objections to approving the consent agenda and the agenda? Seeing none, they are approved. Scheduled public comment, we have none. Unscheduled public comment, would anyone like to come and speak to an item not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move along to item E, consideration of plats, resolution PZ 2023-13, recommending approval for preliminary plat, City Park 2023 replat for a parcel merger of Tract A, City Park Subdivision Number 2, and Tract A Parkview Subdivision, and the right-of-way vacations of Char Circle as dedicated on the Parkview Subdivision, plat number KN 79-156, and City Park Subdivision Number 2, plat number KN 2007-149, and a portion of the South Spruce Street as dedicated on Parkview Subdivision, plat number KN 79-156 in the suburban residential and urban residential zoning districts. Can I get a motion, please? Commissioner
Right.
Greenberg.
I move to approve PZ 2023-13.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, staff report.
Thank you, Chair Twait and Commissioners and member of the public. As noted, this is a preliminary plat, ultimately to merge two parcels as well as vacation of Char Circle and a portion of South Spruce Street. The current use on 320 South Spruce Street is the Boys and Girls Club office, and the lot to the south is vacant. And just as a reminder, this land was donated from the city to Boys and Girls Club, Ordinance 3387, effective July of last year. Therefore, Boys and Girls Club are proposing to vacate Char Circle so they can go ahead and move forward with their development without that easement or right-of-way in the middle of it, as well as maximizing their development potential and vacating a portion of that South Spruce Street. The zoning of this area to the north, 320, is in suburban residential, and the lot to the south is urban residential. The combined lots with the right-of-way vacations will equate to approximately 7 acres. The right-of-way combined is approximately 0.7 acres. Surrounding uses to the north is the Little League field, southwest is vacant, and the east you have the transitional housing as well as vacant land. As you can see from the aerial map there, what's in yellow, the hash is kind of where the identified right-of-way vacations are, and in red are the two parcels that are being proposed to be merged with the vacation of the right-of-ways. In your packet, you'll see the proposed preliminary plat. I do want to give you some insight that originally when we received this, Boys and Girls Club was proposing the entire edge of the spruce right-of-way. So you can kind of see the divot in the southeast corner. It divots in about 38 feet. We requested them to reduce that request of the right-of-way off South Spruce Street to provide access to the lot to the south. So at a minimum, it's as close as 40. Typically, that's more than we would need to access the southern parcel, because we didn't want to limit the right-of-way to anything less than 40, because that would potentially affect the development to the south if it's not a single-family residence. So I want to make note that the applicant did change their preliminary plat to address the concerns of the city. So this is just a zoomed-in portion, just side by side of the preliminary plat and the aerial map of what's being proposed. With that being said, this went through review of the preliminary plat requirements as well as the development requirements of the zoning districts, and as well as the Public Works Director reviewed the proposed preliminary plat and had no comments. Therefore, staff finds that the proposed preliminary plat meets the following Title 14 of Kenai Municipal Code sections when it comes to subdivision design standards. Since this is a merging of lots, they meet the minimum lot size, the minimum lot areas, as well as no additional right-of-ways are being dedicated, rather it's being proposed to be vacated. And the general requirements of the structures being proposed will be determined when we receive the building permit review. Therefore, staff finds that this proposed preliminary plat, known as the City Park Subdivision 2023 replat, meets the standards of Chapter 14.10 for subdivision regulations and Chapter 14.24 development regulation tables, recommending that your commission approve this resolution to the borough, subject to the condition as noted in the staff report, and that is when it comes to vacation of right-of-ways, council needs to approve it. And that concludes staff's presentation. Happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you. We will open it up for public testimony and see if anyone would like to testify to Resolution PZ 2023-13. I don't see anybody. All right, so we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Any discussion? Commissioner Glendenning.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Twait. This is a question for staff. We have a with the co-joining of these two parcels, these two lots, we have RS and RU zoning. That is to be addressed at a future time. Which one it's going to be?
Director
Or a new
Mitchell.
one?
Thank you, Chair Toy, and thank you for the questions, Commissioner Glendenning. With the split different zoning, it just is ultimately where they're proposing their development, and we'll review it when they submit their building permit. And then if it's determined that the use is inconsistent with the zone, say it requires a conditional use permit, then they'll go through that process.
But we can't have two zones on the same parcel.
Yes, you can. It's just, you can.
To include pole dancing?
It just means that wherever you propose your development within that overlay of the zone has to meet that. I mean, ideally, they should rezone it to be consistent, but it does happen.
But then you have two parcels. You have a ghost parcel, north and south. One is zoned one thing, one is zoned another.
Mm-hmm.
You got to pick something. You can't have two. That's incongruous.
I hear your comment. I'm just saying that it's not uncommon. It does happen, and I've been at 6 different cities. It's ideally to be addressed, and staff can recommend to the applicant and the owners to rezone it consistently. But if they were to develop, as long as it meets the zoning of that area, then they can proceed with it. So say, unless they're building a building across the different zonings, so then between right in the dead center of Char Circle, and when they can't do that. So as long as they build their structures within a certain zoning layer.
Then we haven't created two parcels. One parcel. We still have two. We have considerations for two two pieces of the same land.
It's
Is that in city code?
to allow different
To allow
zoning.
that to happen?
Code doesn't say it's prohibited.
We need to.
Let me ask you
square that
this, kind of a roundabout. Do we have any other situations in the city that would mimic this, that you're aware of?
Thank you, Chair Tway, and thank you for confirming that. Commissioner Greenberg, yes, there is a sliver I know across from Walmart, maybe behind Home Depot. There's a sliver of a split zoning of a parcel. But I think that may have been addressed in the past to be corrected. It's not to say that just because it exists doesn't mean we have to fix it. Ideally preferred that it is fixed, but it does exist. And maybe Commissioner Greenberg can point out areas that he's aware of.
Yeah,
Mr. Greenberg, go.
there are other areas in town. Split zones are not uncommon. You can't, when you subdivide, a planning action isn't going to change the zoning, but you can end up with a split zone, and it'd probably be best in order for them to do a rezone, to follow this up, or to like bundle it together, especially like on a large lot. They might have two different uses on it. It's possible. This won't change the zoning though.
At this point, no. But the zoning has to be addressed for best practices.
Probably a good idea.
We're just running down a rabbit hole if we have two separate zones for the same tract of land.
Commissioner Fikes?
So how does this impact the development of it then, if you're trying to apply the set of rules to two different zones?
Director Mitchell?
Thank you, Chair Terry, and thank you, Commissioner Fikes, for that question. So like I said, if they submitted building plans, I'm going to look at where the zoning of that structure is in, and then I applied those development standards to that structure.
You have then you're saying you have a ghost lot, a ghost line that defines what's going to happen within that one tract of land.
Let me ask this question. Vacating Char Circle, which zone does that take on then?
That is a very good question, Chair Toit. So depending on which the dedicated right-of-way was, which plat it came off of. So in this case, the northeast of Char Circle came with a plat with 320 South Spruce Street. Therefore, that portion will be zoned the same as suburban residential to the north. And then the southern portion of Char Circle was dedicated with the plat to the south, then that will be zoned the same as the parcel to the south. I did confirm this with the Borough Platting Division on how they do this. If they were to vacate a right-of-way, which zoning does it go to and which parcel does it go to? And that's how they would apply it.
So just for a particular example, there's an industrial, there's a lot that's on Beaver Loop, and it's part of it's industrial and part of it's something else. If you could pop up like there's the zoning map at the city, you could kind of zoom in and see that. But this does happen.
Down by Signet.
Is it? Yeah, down by Signet. It was Rick Cook's old lot.
Giants Ave, I think.
Yeah. It's not uncommon, and it does happen. But I agree, it's a good idea to fix it. Yeah, there's an interactive map you could go to. So if you go to interactive one, and then just zoom in on Beaver Loop, you'll see there's an industrial peak right down there. Yeah, you just were there. Zoom in. No, the other end. And then that south. See that lot that's cut in half? Part of it's industrial, part of it's conservation.
Move the arrow to it.
To the left.
Oh yeah, that one too. That one too. So that one's conservation, and so.
From the descriptor, I didn't realize it was a bifurcated lot. just looking at it, just two colors, okay, it's two lots. That's what common sense would say. I think we should fix this, if not tonight, in the near future. Pick the zone that's most appropriate for what they're trying to do. I would suggest it's the zone that the building was already on, and that would take care of it, right?
Director Mitchell.
So I will say this, with the zoning of suburban residential and urban residentials for those two lots, more than likely they're going to have to get a CUP because their uses would require a CUP, and your commission can then add a condition that they rezone it to be one and consistent across both parcels.
Would either zone require a conditional use permit, or does one have a permitted use?
Director Mitchell.
So both would more than likely require it, because because previously the use before, I can't remember what it was, they were under a CUP in the suburban residential. We had requested them to Boys and Girls Club to transfer or get a CUP because they're a new use, but they have yet to submit it. And then I have had a couple of admin staff, so we haven't followed through with them. So when we did the annual review of the CUPs, we realized that Boys and Girls Club took over the northern parcel, and we let them know that they needed a CUP. So I can tell you now with assurance that when they do come in with a CUP, your commission can ask as a condition for them to rezone the parcel, merge parcel, to be one zone.
That's probably the cleanest way to do it.
Correct, because if they came in with a building permit, I would review it. I can't condition them to rezone it. There's nothing in code for me to review it from a building permit and say, hey, you need to rezone it. But from a conditional use, we can be discretionary. Your commission could add that condition.
Hold that thought. Another
Mr.
question.
Glendenning, go ahead.
There's water and sewer available. They're not going to take advantage of it and help the city out with its overhead after we gave them that nice piece of property and vacated half a acre lot parcel for them. Is that a little peevish?
Director Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair Tway, and thank you, Commissioner Glendenning. Those questions I do not have an answer with. I did let the Public Works Department director review this, and he had no concerns. Yes, they do have access to it if they wanted to, but they're not I don't know with exact certainty.
Could we review the requirements? Because some people, if they have a lot in town and they build something, they're required to hook up.
Yeah.
This doesn't, well, I'm back from a long trip. I'll just spit it out. This just doesn't pass the smell test.
Yeah. On-site water and sewer system is available, but will be subject to the requirements of the Public Works Department. So when they do their development, it will be reviewed by Public Works.
At that time?
Yes.
Okay, and what is the requirement that people take advantage of our fine water and sewer system for any development that they have?
Unfortunately, that is something I don't know.
It's not optional, is it?
I can't speak on behalf of Public Works, but I'm happy to follow up and let you know and let your commission know.
Okay, and if it's still simmering, he could come visit with us, huh?
Yes.
Anything else? Commissioner Greenberg.
Yeah, I did, whenever I have seen like a right-of-way vacated, it's usually both, people who own both sides of that right-of-way will agree that it's not needed, and the city will also agree. And that's certainly true for Shar Circle, but I'm not sure I see that for, Spruce Street, for South Spruce Street. It's really just one owner asking for a part of the right-of-way and the city just giving it to them, you know? Is the same true for the other side of the right-of-way where like the Lee Shore Center? Can they take some area too? You know, it just seems to me like it's something, I haven't seen that before. It doesn't seem to be, and I don't know, I mean, is the access for sure available for the southern lot?
And I'll just double up on that. That was exactly my question, and I was curious, in addition to that, was the property owner to the south notified of this vacation proposal?
Thank you, Chair Twait and Commissioner Greenberg, for those questions. So like I said, the original proposal requested for the additional 40-foot wide of Spruce Street going east. And then we did talk to the engineer, James Hall, in regards to our concerns about proper access. And they indicated that they did have conversations with the property owner to the south. And this will be heard at council meeting next week. So noticing has been sent or will be sent. So, and I'm happy to go above and beyond and try to reach the property owner to the south as well and make them aware of this. Yes, typically right-of-ways is usually from both sides, but here Spruce Street is very wide and it doesn't hit where the road is actually going through. So there really isn't another property owner to the east unless it's where it's already developed on the other side. And when this ordinance was proposed or enacted for the land donation, I did review the plans that was presented before council of their conceptual drawing, and their drawings did show that it crossed over into South Spruce. Not to say that that guarantees anything, but it did show that it's not that they changed their plans at all. The way they proposed it is consistent with what they were presented to council when the ordinance for the land donation was presented. So this is a very unique situation, and like I said, staff did dial back with the applicant to request at least a minimum of 40-foot wide of access for the south. Of course, your commission could propose a different recommendation as you deem needed or necessary. This is just staff's recommendation.
Yeah.
Commissioner Greenberg.
Yeah, I think you could see that area was vacated in a prior plat, and I just wonder, what the intent of that was for it to be vacated. And it just sets kind of a strange precedent to allow a person to just take a right-of-way like that. I think it makes a lot of sense when, they own both sides of Shar. They want to build across it. They don't need it for access. They've got the access they need. The Spruce Street vacation, to me, is probably not the best precedent to set. That's what I think about that.
Commissioner Fikes.
And how did the roads department weigh in on this? Is there any issue with snow removal or anything like that?
Director Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair Twait and Commissioner Fikes. No, the Public Works Department did not share concerns of snow removal or access to it. And that was also the reason why we asked for reduction of not the 40-foot, because at minimum, standards is usually 20, and so that kind of gives a little bit more buffer. We thought of at least asking that at bare minimum, the standards of providing a minimum 40 width access to the parcel to the south to address those issues and concerns.
So let me ask you this. We have the task of recommending approval or not, or can we make amendments if we wanted to say, let's eliminate the South Spruce Street portion of that vacation? What are our options with that, just so we're clear?
Thank you, Chair Twait. Yes. So your recommendation could just be, as your body recommend, just the vacation of Char Circle and not of Spruce. Again, it's your recommendation to council when they review this next week. Or you can reduce even further, or however you want to modify. That is up to your body.
Commissioner Greenberg.
I move that we recommend that Char's fine, South Spruce Street not be vacated.
Second.
Second. All right. Discussion on the proposed amendment. Commissioner Glendenning.
Yes, I agree with Commissioner Greenberg. He presents a unique perspective and has a like we say, a good overview of best practices within the state, actually, and his observation is absolutely correct. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll vote on the amendment to exclude the South Spruce Street vacation.
Commissioner Feiks?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard?
Yes.
Commissioner Glendenning?
Yes?
Commissioner Greenberg?
Yes.
Vice Chair Halsted?
Yes.
Chair Twait?
Yes.
Commissioner Costin?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, I have the main motion as amended. Any other discussion? Commissioner Glendenning?
Just a question. Is there anybody from Boys and Girls Club here to present testimony tonight?
There is not.
Oh, good. Now, you're back in the hot seat. If I may, we discussed just in the previous discussion that there were drawings presented by the Boys and Girls Club saying, this is what we want to do, this is how it's going to be, this is our dream, our goal. And one of the goals was to just take over Lot 1, Block 1. Here on page 12, it shows Spruce Street, and there's a house there. And they were just going to do it, and then people came that owned the house and said, we heard nothing about it, and we're not going to sell. Okay, what is their plan? Are they going to stick with their original drawings, or do they have a revised and perhaps reduced footprint in mind for our city?
Director Mitchell, with your
Thank you, Chair
magic
Tway,
globe.
Commissioner Glendenning. So they made minor revisions to their conceptual, but they're still in the conceptual stage of their plans. I know in the original conceptual with the ordinance was the clubhouse and parking to the south parcel, but now it's the clubhouse and a field, like a soccer field on that southern parcel. Besides that, it was my understanding that they're requesting for that additional South Spruce Street in order for that large field to sit on the south parcel as well as this clubhouse. Their concern was setbacks as well from the edge of a right-of-way. And so that was a concern of theirs. But I shared with him, like, we can address setbacks in a different manner. But I have yet to actually sit with them to talk about their conceptual plans. I've only seen the latest conceptual plans back in March. And that's what I saw was a clubhouse closest to Spruce Street on the southern parcel.
And going back, I didn't see the March version, but their conceptual plan is that they had wanted to and planned on and actually were counting on absorption of a good portion of the Little League fields for their operation. Is that still in their mind? Is that still in their conceptual plan?
Director Mitchell?
Thank you, Chair Twait. Thank you, Commissioner Glendenning. As far as I can tell with the shift of the field to the south parcel, my assumption of acquiring the land of the little field, no, because it looked like they flopped the field. Originally in the ordinance, it was to the north and now it's to the south. But in reality, I don't know what the final plans are going to look like because these are all conceptual, and I can't share conceptual plans that weren't formally submitted of what I've seen.
You know, all we know is what's been recorded in public testimony and on the tape, and it was pretty brutal. So with that, I'll yield the rest of my time.
You've been watching politics again. All right, anyone else? All right, so we have the main motion as amended. And if we have no more discussion, I'll just, maybe if you can recite what we're voting on so everybody's clear.
You're voting on the main motion as amended, with the addition of a condition that South Spruce Street not be vacated.
Very good. All right, thank you. We'll call the roll.
Commissioner Costin?
Yes.
Commissioner Greenberg,
Yes.
Vice Chair Halsted,
Yes.
Commissioner Fikes,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard,
Yes.
Commissioner Glendenning,
Yes.
and Chair Twait.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. We'll move on to item E2, Resolution PZ 2023-14, recommending approval for a preliminary plat, Shoreline Heights 2023 addition to subdivide tracks A, B, and C of Shoreline Heights 2014 addition Phase 1 subdivision into 17 lots located at 1540, 1541, and 1610 Pay Drive, parcel ID number 039-14131, and 32 and 33 in the rural residential zoning district. Can I get a motion, please? Commissioner Greenberg.
I move to approve PZ 2023-14.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair Toy and Commissioners. So this preliminary plat is to subdivide these 3 parcels, as you can see there in area map, into 17 lots. And this is Phase 2 of the subdivision, the Shoreline Heights. Current use on these 3 lots is vacant. Zoning district is rural residential. As mentioned, is 17 lots. Lot size ranges from half an acre to 1.4 acres. Surrounding uses is vacant to the north, and south is single-family residence. West is the Cook Inlet. East, you have a few different uses. You have vacant lots, single-family residence, as well as in the corner east of 1610 Pay Drive is a marijuana manufacturing establishment. So I do want to point that out. And then the plat is in your packet. As you can see, Pay Drive was dedicated in the original plat, so no road dedication is being proposed with this one. I do want to point out that with this subdivision, Nanilchik Drive will not be improved, so access is just along Pay Drive for these lots. Typically, our ordinance does state that it doesn't want double frontage lot, but the street right behind on Nanilchik Circle is not developed. Therefore, in essence, this would be the only access to these lots at this time. So while it's platted on paper, that is a double fronted lot. Realistically, I think the intent of the subdivider is to only have access off Pay Drive. So I do want to point out that standard. While it's not prohibited, it's just in our ordinance to say to be avoided, but the circumstance kind of leaves it as is. As you zoom in, you can see these 17 lots and then top of the bluffs. And this is the original plat, the Shoreline Heights 2014 edition, Phase 1. You can see that there was an easement running down. It's kind of hard. I should have highlighted it for you. It's like an L shape running through the subdivision of Phase 1 and Phase 2. That was eventually vacated, and I included this easement vacation plat to show that we don't have any issues with this subdivision because that has been vacated. So I wanted to provide you with everything in order for you to make a decision on this plat. And then just with this being said, it meets the subdivision regulations as well as development standards. Development standards will be reviewed when we get building permits for it. It meets the minimum width, lot sizes of this zoning district. So staff is recommending your commission approve this plat for subdivision of 17 lots to Kenai Peninsula Borough without any conditions. This concludes staff's presentation. Happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you. We'll open it up for public testimony. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak to PZ 2023-14? All right, we will close public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Glendenning.
Yeah, just a question. I've looked, through the first phase of the subdivision. It's very attractive, very nice and all that. And then I looked with interest as this addition. Lot 10 has water and sewer available, but none of the others do. And that's a choice not to take advantage of our fine utility system in the city. And if Bay Drive is going to be paved over, that pretty well eliminates any opportunity for hookups unless you want to spend a little extra money on maintaining the road. Is there anybody here can talk about that?
All right, if you can come forward and state your name and whether you're a resident of the city.
I am a resident of the city. My name is Brian Lowe, and I'm the
Okay.
developer of the subdivision. And we will have city water on the 17th. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Brian Lowe, and I am the developer of the subdivision. We already have city water in there. But city sewer was too high in the ground. I would have brought it in there when I did phase one, but I would have had to go lift stations, and it would have been a few $1 million. But the water line is in and already tested.
Yeah. So again, for the new lots, there is water.
Correct.
Good. And then it'd be.
And I love the city water.
We like it better. I've been here 50 years and I'm liking it better.
Yeah.
So just a practical observation then, if you have city water, then the sewers would be on, the water disposal would be on each individual lot, right?
Correct. Private
And then that
septic
will
system.
give you more flexibility because you don't have to encounter a well on each lot.
Correct.
You have the water.
Correct, and you can have smaller lots if you have one utility.
Right.
Right.
Okay, well, that sounds good, and you did a soils test and all that? and-
Correct.
Yeah, okay, it sounds like a good project. I wish you luck.
Thank you.
Stay right there. We'll make sure, you might have to get back up again. So Commissioner Fikes.
I just had some questions maybe for staff about access. So could you explain more about what you mean by double front lots? So if I'm coming off of the Spur Highway, I'm going to be accessing these new subdivided lots off of Pay Drive in the front?
Bree, office per highway. Bree, pay.
Right, okay. And are you gonna have hammerheads at the end or turnarounds, or how's that? You're gonna have a
We
full,
have one at one end, and it's just not on the plat. We are gonna have, it's already
Oh.
cul-de-sac, not paved, but will be shortly. But
to subdivision standards then, or can you, and what is the width of those turnarounds?
50-foot radiuses, I believe.
50 foot.
So
Code
that'll,
requires
so the
50.
plat will be updated when it gets final approval with the cul-de-sac in there then. Okay.
And you'll have drainage ditches on the sides, is that? Yeah. But there's no turnaround there now, that's why I'm asking.
Well, we can't drive on phase two yet. We got it
Okay.
coned off, but, yeah, it's ready for paving here next week. And
Okay.
there's a cul-de-sac at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Just out of curiosity, how stable is the bluff right there? Is it? I mean, I know it can't. It's obviously losing some, but is it relatively stable?
I'm not,
Sure.
yeah, I can't say, I'm not a scientist on this.
I just thought maybe you'd seen just kind of eyeballing to see.
Erosion, I see
Yeah.
erosion. We all know there's erosion in Kenai, you know, but I'm not an expert on it.
So
But I did, in my covenants is, I don't allow anybody to build within 125 feet of the bluff.
okay, and then are the septic systems also designed then to be more towards the street side, away from erosion, or
No, they're tight to the house,
so
but that's all
up to that?
DEC.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just curious because I'm seeing future down the line at some point you could
I
have.
tell everybody to build close to the street.
Yep. Okay, great. All right, anyone else? All right, you can sit down. Thanks. All right, any other discussion? Commissioner Greenberg.
Yeah, I think we have a pretty big housing shortage, so I think this is a welcome addition to Kenai.
I would agree, and nice view lots that can support some high-end housing as well, so I would agree with that. And if there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Greenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Glendenning,
Oh, yes.
Vice Chair Halsted,
Yes.
Chair Tweet,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard,
Yes.
Commissioner Costin,
Yes.
Commissioner Fikes?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item F, public hearings. Resolution PZ 2023-16, granting an encroachment permit for a single-family residence to encroach into the required north side yard setback on the property located at 1436 Pay Drive, Kenai parcel ID 0391446 in the rural residential zoning district. Can I get a motion, please? Commissioner Greenberg.
I move to approve PZ 2023-16.
All right, second.
A second.
All right, staff report.
Thank you, Chair Tway and Commissioners. As noted, this is an encroachment permit requesting to encroach approximately 16.8 inches into the required 15-foot side yard setback. In the rural residential, the required setback is 15 feet. So as you can see highlighted in red is the subject parcel, so it'll be along the north parcel line that they'll be encroaching towards. Existing use is a single-family dwelling that's still under construction. They haven't received their final inspection to obtain their occupancy. I believe they have a temporary occupancy. Land use designation is low density, and surrounding uses primarily single-family residence, with the exception to the south is a vacant parcel, which is owned by another residence across the street. In your packet, you have an as-built survey provided by the applicant. You can see that in this view of the map, to the left here, the house is 13.6 feet away from the property line. On the other side is a little bit over 15 feet, which meets the minimum 15-foot requirements. There are 4 review criteria when it comes to encroachment permit. The first being, does it meet an encroachment? Yes, because it's an object or structure constructed or located in a manner other than set forth in the development requirements table, in which case they're required to be 15 feet away, and they're not. Second criteria is, does it encroach upon a federal, state, or city right-of-way or utility easement? No, there's no utility easements along here, along the south or to the north property lines, and as well as it's on an interior lot line, so there's no federal and state right-of-way as well. Therefore, this proposed encroachment meets this criteria. Criteria 3, issuance of encroachment permit will not authorize a use which is not a principal permitted use. This is a single-family residence in a residential zone, so it is a permitted use. This encroachment is not allowing any other use that is not allowed in the zone. Lastly, criteria 4, an encroachment is not located across a platted lot line. They are approximately 13.6 feet away, so they're not crossing any plat lines or property lines. Therefore, they meet these 4 criteria when it comes to an encroachment permit. So staff is recommending that your commission adopt this resolution approving this encroachment permit to allow this new single-family residence to encroach into the required 15-foot side yard setback by 16.8 inches. And that's concludes staff's presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. At this time, we'll open it up for public testimony. Anyone wishing to testify to PZ 2023-16? You'll be up here yet, I'm sure. All right, we'll close public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Glendenning.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Twait. Yeah, this is interesting, but yet a kind of a common occurrence in our town, you know, and looking at the as-built that was made, there's as I'm reading it, there's a driveway from lot 22 that goes along, okay, and if that's the intended use for lot 22, that probably gives you a little elbow room so no one would build 15 feet away from that lot line. And did I understand you have a certain amount of leeway? You can grant, what, a foot or something like that? So we're talking about half a foot here?
That is not a half a foot.
Commissioner Glendenning, so your question is, at an administrative level, staff can approve up to 12 inches encroachment. So if the applicant came in and said, hey, I need an encroachment permit, I need 12 inches. Staff can approve it, assuming they meet all these criteria outlined here on the PowerPoint. Otherwise, once they exceed 12 inches, it has to come before your commission for approval, in which case they're at 16.8, so we're at 4.8 exceeding what administratively staff can approve. 4.8 inches. Yes.
Okay, I have no more questions, but I'm going to approve the variance.
I want to see your tape measure when this is all done. I got a couple questions if you could come up, just, I want to clarify a couple things. So the driveway that Mr. Glendenning mentioned on lot 22 was put in, for this development, or were those put in for lot 22 and just missed the mark?
They were put in for lot 22, but since this has been done, that driveway has been moved already.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And the other thing is, now, I know you've built a few in there.
Yeah.
We haven't had to have you come here before for the same thing, so it's first time occurrence, so.
Yeah.
How many have you built in there so far?
This is my fourth, I think.
Fourth,
Yeah.
and started when?
2016, 2017, somewhere in there.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I built the first one in there.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's all I had. I just wanted to make sure, like I said, I hadn't seen you come in for one of these before, so.
Yeah, nope.
Okay, great.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions while you got him up here? All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Can I get your name for the record?
Oh, sorry about that.
Bryson Lowe?
Thank you.
I just have a quick question for
yeah.
you. So you mentioned the driveway adjustment. Has that been corrected on the as-built?
No, since it's not mine driveway, so, I mean, I don't really need it corrected, I don't think, but it's the other property owner's responsibility, but once I got my lot lines and stuff, he moved the driveway since then, but my as-built was already done based on my structure already.
So the one we're looking at is not the current one. You have a current one?
This is the current one that I have, but showing that that driveway is gone is not on
Oh.
mine.
I just was hypothetically, if you sell in the future, is that gonna be
Yeah.
an impact if this isn't reflecting the current status of the lot? That's what I was getting at.
And maybe I'll let Director Mitchell answer that. If it's just a driveway and it's not a structure, I don't think that really becomes a issue down the line necessarily, does it? Or does it?
Thank you, Chair Toit. Correct. Driveway itself would not be an issue for building permits or, because typically, I mean, driveway permits do require driveway permit, but those are typically with curb cuts to the right-of-way, not necessarily location. Our code doesn't specify where driveways, how far they need to be from property lines. If we had those standards, maybe that would be an issue. Like, for example, in a city I worked for, driveways had to be a minimum 5 feet away from the interior lot line, so that way people aren't driving up on the property line so close to your neighbor, mostly in a denser neighborhood, something like that. But we don't have those standards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll call the roll, please.
Vice Chair Halsted,
Yes.
Commissioner Glendenning,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenberg,
Yes?
Commissioner Costin,
Yes?
Commissioner Fikes,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard,
Yes.
Chair Twait.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, and you've probably been told, but there's a 15-day appeal period, that if that passes and nobody's filed an appeal with the clerk's office, then that permit will be granted, so, all right. Thank you. All right, no unfinished business under item G, new business under H, requesting, no, that's all done by consent agenda. Let's move right on to Vice Mayor Baisden under reports and City Council.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing to add. I don't think we've had a meeting since your last meeting, so we have our meeting Wednesday coming up.
Slackers. Commissioner Glendenning.
Can you give us a preview?
I haven't looked at the agenda, no.
Do you have your eye in the on the bluff as far as any erosion updates on the erosion project?
I don't have any updates for you now.
All right. He's just gonna look pretty up here. He's got nothing.
Yeah, he's been golfing.
All right, then we'll move right on to Borough Planning, Commissioner Fikes.
Alrighty. Our last one was on, gosh, when was it? 17th. And let's see, we had Mr. Martin Blair, sunset into the horizon, and Miss Gillum stepped into his spot to replace him as we shuffled and got the lineup on the Borough Planning and Zoning Commission trimmed down, so he is no longer on the commission, and Jeremy Brantley has stepped up and taken the gavel to be the official chair of the meetings now. And then we jumped into a setback encroachment in the Cooper's Landing area. And there was no real concerns on that one, and that one was ultimately approved. That was to grant a building setback encroachment in the Quartz Creek subdivision. And I don't recall any big significant issues on that one. That moved us into a building setback encroachment permit in the Sterling area in the Dozer subdivision. Moved to grant a building setback permit, and there's no issues on that one either. And that moved us into 3, another building setback encroachment permit, and this one was also in the Sterling area in the Heavens View subdivision. Addition right-of-way vacation, and that one was also approved. And, oh yeah, there it is. That moved us into a conditional land use permit modification for material extraction. Those are always fun. And so we went into adjudicative session so we could have some discussion and feedback on a permit that we had previously approved. And so if I got this right, the applicant was coming back to ask for a modification so that they could process, which included rock crushing, beyond the hours of operation of 10 o'clock and possibly up to 24 hours. And there was a small subdivision that was going to be impacted. There was at least 6 folks that came to testify and/or provided written testimony or verbal over the phone as to their obvious objections on that. And strangely enough, there was nobody there for the applicant to have any feedback. So during the adjudicative session, we had a lot of discussion back and forth, and agreed that, you know, it was just, it felt like it was a reach after the fact, that this was what they wanted, but they wanted to appease the commission, and so they did by offering up this voluntary condition to only operate until 8 p.m., and then they circled back and said they wanted to change that. But as Chair Brantley brought up, he goes, it's not unreasonable to ask for that, and we probably may have considered it if they were there to give feedback or give questions. And the example that Chairman Brantley came up with is that, you know, maybe there was a 2-week window because of traffic on the highway and obviously fishing season. They needed to get in there and they needed to do this and provide it right away, and there was a small window that this was going to happen. But the verbiage that we were looking at had it open-ended for almost 15 years. It was a permit for 15 years that open-ended with these operations, and a change to the permit. And so that also opened the door that if they turn and sell this to somebody else, a completely different person could walk in. And so there was a lot of things that I was happy to see that we had the opportunity to go into session, to have that discussion and to vet it out. And ultimately we decided to say no on the permit. So I thought it was after seeing so many of these come back, it kind of felt like a little, like we finally got a win for us. So I was happy to see that for the community, so that they can at least get the hours of operation in peace and quiet. And that was all that we had, I believe. Oh, the plats. There was 6 plats. 2 of them passed administratively. 1 was withdrawn, and 2 were reviewed. And director's comments. He was still dealing with water on the Bowie, Carluck neighborhood type thing. There was still active water being flushed out of areas. I think he still got it down to 10 houses instead of 12. So I'm not sure where we're headed after that, but I mean, there's still, you can drive down there and still actively see hoses stretched across the road and pumps and whatnot, so. That was all that I recall. Yeah, that was all that he had.
Commissioner Glendenning.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Twait. Yeah, your point's well taken, that no one showed up to testify for their extension. We've seen that in the past that certain variances from the established operating hours have been contract specific. The state is very, 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 very specific and critical of being able to have a smooth flow and access of material. So if the guy said, we just need it for this contract and let it go back, it might have worked out, but lessons learned, huh?
Yeah, and I'm just, like I say, glad that we had the folks, the skill set and the experience to step up and say, hey, this is something that I think this rule applies as far as adjudicative, and let's try this and let's go through it. And Zoom work, because we had one before where it did not work recording wise, so we actually were able to pause and get confirmation. We had folks participating on Zoom and they were able to participate. They were able to suspend the recording, so. Yeah, I think it was a really neat experience that we were able to capture that at a borough level to kind of move forward in our technology.
Yeah, thank you for the report.
Any other questions of Commissioner Fikes? All right, item 3, City Administration Director Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair Twait. Don't have too many, but at the last meeting I told you that I had a vacancy in my administrative assistant and that I was broken down to 2 part-time positions now. The posting closed yesterday, so I'm going to be reviewing in the next couple of days and be scheduling interviews next week. Since it is 2 positions, it may be that I find one and then do another round and find a second. So we'll see how this first round goes. And then I will be out of the office from August 8th through the 15th, and that's why you get a break from the first meeting in August. So enjoy your summer. Otherwise, I don't have too many. I've been just catching up and filling the gaps without an admin assistance, and as well as last week had the opportunity to go on site visits with a police officer with code enforcement visits, which was very effective, because code doesn't allow me just to trespass, but with an officer to escort me, we can knock on doors and I can feel safe, and they have good rapport with the community. So I'm excited to show you in the next meeting some improvements to a lot of sites that been on the books for a while, and they're cleaning up their properties. I was rather impressed of the 10 sites I visited. So I'm hoping to catch up on other cases that's been lingering. So that's exciting to share with you. Other than that, I don't have any other things. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Commissioner Glendenning.
Yeah, just a question. I read in the literature that there was a there was a suggestion that you're going to maybe ask for a change in code so that certain levels of plat review could be just approved administratively. And be interesting to see what your standard is for that. I always find it's interesting just to look at the plats with the various presentations of the surveying outfits that are around, and maybe just be included as an information or something like that. Because anytime we can look at something that affects our city and it's administratively approved, I have no objection to that. I just like to look and see, and if you let me talk now, I won't pick at it too much any in the future.
That's on the record.
I know.
Anything else for Director Mitchell? I just have one comment. Is there anything we can do to help lobby more vacation time for you on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of the month in the future? We'd be glad to help on that. You deserve more time.
Thank you, Chair Twait.
All right.
I will say I've asked that and it was denied. So I appreciate your support. Just, there's plats, we only have 49 days to review. And so if I cancel a meeting, it requires me to go to the next one. So I'm cutting timeline very short from a city perspective, as well as everyone wants their permits right away, and usually people don't do it in the right order. They submit a building permit, and then they realize they need a CUP, so then it's like I'm holding them up on their development. So until I think I get the development community on board with how things work at the city, I'm going to continue to do the 2 a month. Eventually, over time, I hope to go with once a month, because I appreciate your time as well.
So I do have one other follow-up, I guess. So I heard rumor that maybe coming down the pike is some rezoning on the waterfront. Is that a true statement?
Thank you, Chair Twait. Yes, that is true. Unfortunately, with myself, I do not have the capacity to work on the waterfront rezoning. So city manager is looking to hire a consultant to work on that, and then I will be kind of guiding them in the direction with that work. And I believe the appropriation for that will be presented to council next Wednesday. So if you look at their council packet, you will see that. And I outline a project plan for it in that packet.
Great. Okay, additional public comment? Nobody anywhere. So next meeting will be the 23rd. Commissioner Glenn Denning, commissioners' comments and questions.
Thank you, Chairman Twait. And as my usual observation is, I was in no way impacted or coerced or advised or browbeaten by the comments of the councilman here present, and I do appreciate his concern and his attention to detail. Thank you.
Commissioner Woodard.
If you like to play softball in the rain, show up Saturday morning at 11 at Ball Field 1. We're having a family, it's a Republican thing, but you don't have to be a Republican.
You just got to sit on the bench if you aren't. Commissioner Costin.
I really don't have anything tonight.
All right. Vice Chair Halstead.
Nothing here.
Commissioner Greenberg.
I don't have anything, thanks.
Commissioner Fikes.
I will not be here for the 23rd. I'll be on vacation.
All right, and I would just say that I think with that plat, that was some good discussion. I think we threw out some ideas that council can look at next week, and I think that was a good job and good participation by everybody on that. So with that, all the business complete, the meeting is adjourned. 8:03.